Today, we're going to be making this Instagram animation. Let's get started. Before we actually get started, there's a couple of things that you're probably going to want to grab. You're going to want to grab 6 images. You're going to want to get whatever your profile image is or that you're going to be using. And then I also went to icons 8 and I grabbed a mouse cursor icon. It's a little, it looks like a mouse cursor. It's 50 pixels by 50 pixels. So once you grab that stuff, you're just gonna grab it or bring it into your project. You kind of want to make sure that the shots, the 6 images, that they're 1:1 aspect ratio. It doesn't matter what resolution, but just that they're a square. We're going to jump right into Fusion once we bring this stuff in, and we are going to make a new Fusion comp. And today I'm just going to be working in a comp of 30 frames per second. And once we created it, we're going to double click to open it. And once you see the media out, then you know you're in it. We're going to close the spline, bring the media out over here. And we are just going to start with the profile image. And here is my profile image. I'll zoom out a bit. This is 150 by 150. If yours is bigger, that's perfectly fine. If yours is smaller, you might want to find a bigger one. We are going to be resizing this, so it doesn't matter what size you actually have. So let's grab the resize tool. Before we do that, let's right click here and align tools to grid, just so that they snap, set this up and make it a little cleaner. So I'm going to connect this over and play from here. And what you'll notice is that this is 1920 by 1080, which is the project resolution. Obviously I don't want that, but I want to keep the aspect ratio. So I'm just going to put in here 300, 300, and there we are back at a square. And we are just going to grab a background and view that. And I'm just going to pull the alpha out of it just so it's transparent. And then I'm going to take our profile picture and put it on top of the background. So that's where we're currently at. Let's go to fit. So that's about the size that we're looking for. And our profile images, they're circle. So we need to make this a circle. So we're going to, from up here, we're just going to grab an ellipse tool and we're going to connect that into the media in for the profile picture. And then on the ellipse tool, because we want to keep that same resolution, or at least the ends of that resolution, for the width and height, we're just going to do 1 because we want it to be the full amount. And there we go. We have our profile picture with the circle. So the next thing that we are going to want to do is throw some type of animation on this, just so that we can bring it in. So if it's a flat screen, like a white screen, we want to be able to bring that in. So just for now, I'm going to make this white, but we will be changing that back to transparent. So this is our profile picture. Because our merge has all of this coming in as the foreground. If you highlight over this, it'll say foreground. If you highlight over this, it'll be the background. Because this is coming in as the foreground, this merge has the ability to affect whatever comes in the foreground. So that's what we will be doing to add animations. Up here is our playhead, this orange bar. So we're going to come over to frame 0 and keyframe here. And we're going to come all the way down to 0. Then I would say, let's say frame 15. I'm going to change this to 1.1 just so it's a bit larger than it started. And then 10 frames after that, so we went from 15 to 25, I'm just going to click this button so it goes back down to the default size. So it starts out small, it gets a little big, and then it comes back and rests at that size. I want to add some easing into here, so I'm going to come up to the spline tool, click on size, make sure it's the merge that we were working on. So this is merge 1, here's merge 1. The size, here are the keyframes for the size. I'm going to highlight everything and then hit F to smooth all of those keyframes out and have it ease from one to the other. So it comes in and it settles. But one other thing that we typically see with a profile image is we normally see the border around the outside when you have a story. So let's add that border in quick. I'm just going to grab another background and we're going to view that background right here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the resolution. This always comes in as auto resolution to fill up the whole window, but we don't want that. What we're actually going to do is make it a little bit bigger than our profile picture. So we're going to go 320, 320. And we also want to add the colors that the logo is for Instagram. So I'm going to come into here to 4 corners. And in the top left corner, we have like a purple-ish color. So something like this, I would say, maybe even more blue, like that. And then our next one, we have top right, and the top right is a little more on the purple side. So something like that. Bottom left is a yellow. So something of that nature, I believe. And then the bottom right is kind of like a red pinkish. So there we go. So that's kind of the colors of that ring or their logo. So I'm just going to disconnect this connection here, and I'm going to have the profile picture overlap on top of that background. And then we're going to feed this back into our the rest of our project here. And let's just view this. So that's where we're currently sitting. What we could do is we could just connect this ellipse tool into here, and then we would have that circle. But I want to add an animation in there. So to do that, I'm just going to disconnect here, grab this ellipse tool, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, connect this up. And the other node that we're going to add in here is Shift Spacebar. And we're just going to add a mask paint tool, and we will connect that up. And I'm just going to view everything here just like this. And I'm going to zoom out on this just a little bit. So I'm holding down Control and mouse wheeling out just a little. Make sure that we're clicked on this mask paint. I'm going to click this button here to add a path. And I'm just going to work my way around this, clicking in the middle of the thickness of this line, if that makes sense. Just around just like this. And it doesn't matter how many connections you add, just so they're all in the middle. And then you can go around and you can grab the line that kind of goes into the white area and pull it over. Doesn't need to be perfect, but just close enough. So now we have our circle here, and we need to have this effect, it coming on. So in this ellipse tool, we're going to change the paint mode to multiply. And what multiply does is 2 different masks have to be overlapping one another for that portion to be visible. So as you can see, we have like that big mask, but then this mask is smaller. So then we only have this line. So all we have to do to make this look correct is come into our brush control and increase our brush size. And as you can see here, it's going all the way around. And now in the paint mask tool, if I come down to stroke controls, now this right on, we can kind of make an animation here that goes around. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And as you can see here is our last keyframe, and I think that's right around. So let's come over to here where that keyframe is. It's 25. So I'm going to come 2 frames over and then come to my mask. And I'm just going to click this button to add a keyframe, bring this all the way down, and then come in like, let's say 10 frames and animate it all the way on. So now this is what we have. Or actually, let's watch the whole thing. All the way over here, bring this up here, and let's go to fit. Comes on, and it goes around. So that's good so far. The next things, if we look at a Instagram page, is we have the name, a follow button. You can add a verify icon if you want to. I'm not going to for this project. We have all of our stats, and then we have this little area with a little bit of information, and then our images, obviously. One thing to note here is, I believe this is for all users, is that the name of the account is all lowercase. and then you can write your name in here, but the name of the account itself is all lowercase. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then here, all of this is bold, and then this isn't bold. So I'll show you how to fix that then. So let's see here. Our mask is right here. So frame 37 is right here. 37 is where that comes on. And we're going to come up just a couple of frames. And now we're going to shift everything over so that we can add everything else in. So all I'm going to do is clicking on this merge that has the initial bounce in, and we are on frame, let's just do frame 40. We'll come back to this merge, and we're going to keyframe the center, and then we're going to come up, let's say 6 frames, 7 frames, let's do 7 frames. And we are going to move this over here, but I'm just going to move it to 0.25. The reason why I'm moving it to 2.5 is because I'm going to add an image right below it, so everything will line up real nice. So let's take a look at what we have so far. It bounces up, it comes up, and it goes over. Okay, this move seems kind of really fast, so I'm going to come over a little bit, and then in our merge here, I'm just going to show just selected, so I just see the stuff in here. I don't want to see the slide, I just want to see the path here. Highlight that top keyframe, I'm going to hold shift and then just move that over, and that should be a little bit better. Okay, and because we have all the movement happening with this, I want to add in motion blur. So I'm going to come in here, motion blur, change this to quality of 10. But because we added that now we are going to have motion blur, and it's going to use more resources to preview. And that will typically slow down, your workflow as you're going. So I'm going to right click right in here, turn off high quality, and also turn off motion blur. This is just the settings for the preview, not the output. So the output will slow the motion blur, but the preview won't have it. So my computer doesn't have to go through the process of rendering that stuff and being concerned with it until the final output. Okay, so now that we have that, we have some room here to add additional stuff. So I'm just going to move all of this down. I'm going to try to keep these in like their own little groups. So I need to add text, and I'm just going to connect the texts to the output of that merge that we were doing all the editing to. And I'm going to view that merge and come into my text here, and I'm just going to put in NASA, and let's change the color. Alrighty, and let's change this to a thinner text, and let's change this down. Okay, it's a little too small, about 6. That might be good. Alright, now I need to find a positioning for this. Alright, I think that will work. The other thing that's right alongside of that text is the follow button, so we're going to create that quick. So I'm just going to pull down a solid, and I'm going to pull in a rectangle. So I can cut the solid. I'm going to bring this down, and I'm going to bring in another text node because I need to add the writing on that button. So I'll connect these two together, and let's just view these for now. And in here, I have a tool here that will allow me to see what color this is. So I'll click this. If you want to pause the video and get this color, you can. But that's the color of that button. So I'm just going to add that color in here. If you wanted that, it's just an extension. Let me see, hold on a second. The extension is called, how the heck do you get a name of an extension? Color Picker Eyedropper for Chrome. Okay, so we have this, and I need some size comparison, so I'm just going to connect these here, bring this up, connect this over to here, view this. In here, what is this? Capital F, follow. And I think this needs to get shrunken down quite a bit. And then I'll come into this rectangle and just grab here and change the size of my button and add some corner roundness. It's not that much, it's about like that much. I think this wording is still too big, so let's go down to 3. Come back into my button, and we'll just shrink it down like that. And because these are all together here, in this merge here, because everything's getting fed into this merge, if I come into this merge, and currently this is the background, and I switch them by hitting Control T, it'll switch these two. Now in this merge, I can move them both together. So just a little tip, so you're not moving, you know, the text and then moving the background. Just move them together just like that. Okay, so now we have both of these. So let's animate these on now. So I'm going to take both of these, come over here, and to animate them on, because as all of that's coming in at the foreground, and then this is coming in as the background, we can manipulate it by adding in a mask. So I'll bring over a mask, I'll connect this in, bring it over here, and we're just going to drag this up. If we close that, open up 2 views, view this over here, one thing we can do is we can soften this edge a little bit. We just have to watch, because if we add too much softening, it's going to, as you can see, you can start to see through this, and we don't want that. So we'll come into here and we'll just move this down just a little bit so we don't have any softening happening to our button. But the reason why I'm doing that is because now I can see the timing of when this comes over. So as it comes over and it stops, where is that final keyframe? It's at 50. So let's come to 52. And I'm seeing my frame numbers over here if you're curious as to how I know which frames they are. So 52, I am going to then come into my positioning, keyframe that. I'm on my text, the NASA text. Then I'm going to come in a couple of keyframes like that, keyframe there. Come back to my first keyframe. I'm going to zoom out and let's go back to fit. And I can pull this down, and because I'm pulling it down outside the boundaries of this mask, it's not visible. So that is how we bring on that animation. So let's do this, and it comes in. So that looks good. We added movement in here. I want motion blur. Okay. And then we're also in this merge, because all of these are working together, we're also going to add movement in with this merge as well. So as this is like, I would say like right there, I'm in my merge right now, keyframe here, come up a couple, keyframe, come back, and we can move this down now. So that comes up, that comes up. We made movements on this, so we're going to add motion blur onto there as well. Okay, the next stuff that we have here is our post numbers and all of that. So that's the next little area that we're going to do. So I'll come down a little bit further, just dragging down text tools, just like this. 3 of them, because we have 3 different areas. And I'm just going to connect them together, just like that. The first one is 25, 3 posts. Let's change the color while we're here. It's kind of like a gray. Come into this one, change the color right away, I guess. And this is, geez, 36.8 million followers. And then our next one, paste in the color here. And this is only following 73 people. Okay, so then we're going to come out of all of this and come into everything else that we've made so far. We're going to view that. Obviously it looks terrible because we need to resize and move everything. So we'll change the size. Let's go to 0.3. 0.3. Click on this one. 0.3. And then we're just going to click on the first one here and move it just so that like these line up. And let's leave that one for now. Let's go to the last one and move the last one out. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to be placing all of these, but that almost seems fine just like that. Needs to come down a little bit. So to move them all down instead of doing them individually, I'll just come into this merge because everything's coming in through the foreground. And just pull it down just a little bit, just like that. Perfect. All right. The other thing that we have to do is, like I was saying before, this is bold and this isn't, so we need to fix that. I get asked a bunch of questions on this, and it's fairly simple. So all we have to do is just right-click right here, character level styling, click it. Up here, a modifier was added, so we click on the modifier. Now, in our viewer, I'm just going to hold Control and zoom in so I can see this. And if I highlight the second half of this, I can now come in and change just that portion to a different font. So that's all you have to do. Come over here, right click, character level styling, modifiers, highlight, change the font. In here, highlight, oops, highlight, there we go. All right, let's go back. So now that's all looking pretty good. Now we have to add some type of an animation, and I'm pretty much going to do the same thing that I did for this stuff up here. So I'm just going to grab a rectangle mask, connect it, bring it over, shrink it down like this, bring it up, and add a bit of softening. And the reason why I'm adding softening is because if I end up moving one of these, so if I move this down and I don't have the softening and it's just a hard edge, it's like 1 second it's on, the other second it's off. So if I don't have it and I slide it up, it just looks like that, like it's on and off, and it doesn't kind of, you know, come out of nowhere. So I like adding some softening in here. All right, so let's see our animation. So this comes up, that comes up, and it kind of ends like, let's have it maybe 65. Let's go with that. And come over here, and I believe that this was 0.5. Okay, we'll keyframe that. We'll come up 20, no. Come up a couple of frames, bam. I'll come back to my previous keyframe and bring this down. And that looks good. Come to here. Actually, yeah. Come into here. Keyframe that. Keyframe, come back. And we'll move this down. Come into here. Keyframe, come back to this one, bring this down. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is highlight all of these. Now we have them all in here. I'm going to click this button to see all of them. And then the top keyframes is when it's coming up. I'm going to just hit F so that they ease, they slow down a little bit once they get to that top point. So it's kind of like, it's nice and soft. It just isn't like a hard finish. Okay, so now we have that animation so far. We have this come in, we have it wrap around, all of these come up. So that's where we're at so far. So the next part that we are going to do is we're just going to add this stuff in. Now, I don't really want to add any type of extra stuff in here, so I'm just going to just grab this stuff, this right here. I'm just going to copy it and paste it. And yeah, that's just kind of be kind of that. Nothing special in here. So I'm just going to bring it down a little bit further. I'm going to connect it to everything that we have going so far. View it. Whoops. View it. Come into here and paste. And we'll change the color. Oops. There we go. Bring this down. I think we're at like 3. I'm gonna anchoring to the left and bring this down and over. And then I have to come in. Actually, I think I need to cut off some of this. So maybe at the end of planet, so right here, just hit enter so it comes over here and get rid of that space. All right, and the size come down a little bit, maybe a little bit more. I feel like that is good. And then I'm just also going to change the styling as well. So clicking on it, I'm gonna zoom in, click over here, right click, character level styling, modify, and then highlight, highlight all of this, light, there we go, perfect. I'm actually gonna bring this down just a little bit more. All right, and I think I'm going to change this up. You can make this, you know, however you want, but I think I'm going to change mine up a little bit and just have it like come in from the side. So I'm just going to kind of center this here. Maybe a little bit of softening. And then for the texts, let's see where that 73 comes up. It's like right about there. Going to keyframe and then maybe come over 10 frames, keyframe here, come over here and bring this over here. And then here's my keyframe, so I'm just going to highlight the top one, ease it. Let's see it without all of that. All right, that looks great. All right, so far we have most of it looking pretty good. Although, now I'm looking at it, these like don't line up. So this N one, bring it over just a little bit. There. If there was a line there, I think that lines up a little bit better now. All right. Okay, fit. Next, I need to work on all of the images like popping up. So that's the next one. All right, so I'm gonna start with 3 images because it's gonna be 3 across. So 1, 2, and 3. Now, if I look at these images up here, you'll see that this one is 844. Look at this one, 867 or 868, and then 1280, right? So they're all different resolutions. So we just need to bring them all to one resolution because we want them to look all the same, just like they do on Instagram. So the easiest way to do this is just to bring in a resize tool, bring this over, and then in the resize tool, I'm going to keep the frame aspect and I'm just going to do 400. So I'm just going to highlight this node, Control C, Control V, paste it, connect it, and then same here. And then all I'm going to do is grab a background because these are all just 400 in size, and if we connect these together, the resolution is just going to be 400 because the background resolution determines the frame size. I don't think that's the proper term, but that's what we're going to go with. So I'm going to bring the alpha just so it's transparent. Then I'm going to lay these on top of the background. So the background comes in as the background connector, and then everything else comes in as the foreground. And we'll connect this to here and connect this to here. We'll view it. They're all on top of each other right now. So I'm going to highlight these. I'm going to bring them over so we have a better sense of everything that's going on here. This top one, I'm just going to reposition it, right? And all I'm going to be doing is putting this to 25, 25. And then the next one is just going to be 25, or excuse me, 0.5, 0.25. And then this final one is going to be 75, 25. And now I need to figure out where all of these animations end. So they end around 90. So let's give this 15 frames, so 5, 10, 15. So we'll start all of these animations at 10:05. So I'm going to come back down here, view all of this, and I'm going to save quick. And now I'm going to, for this first one, I'm just going to keyframe it here, and then come up 10 frames, keyframe it again. And now for the second location in the Y, I'm just going to put in 75, so then it just comes up. And everything else, I'm just going to have offset of 2 frames. So 1, 2. So come in here, keyframe, here, keyframe, 75. And then on this one, keyframe. Oh, jeez. So I'm just going to have a keyframe there, and then for the second one, 75. So the animation just looks like this. All right. Because these have movement, also going to add motion blur into here. And then in this one as well. And I also am going to highlight all of these and highlight the top ones, hit F just to ease them. So there's all of my first ones. Now I need to make a second group. So all I'm going to do is grab another one, grab here, grab here. And to save time, all I'm going to do is highlight all of this stuff. So there's the resize and then the animation. I'm going to copy everything. I'm going to paste it, and let's bring it down here, and then just connect these. And then once they're connected, we're going to highlight these end ones here. So now you can see that the last keyframe's right here. So I'm just going to come up 10 frames, so to here. And having all of these highlighted, I'm going to come into keyframes, click this button, show only, select it, click in here, click each one of these because now they'll show up in the spline tool, and then just show these keyframes. I'm going to make a little more room, highlight all of these, holding shift, we can move them over to here. And my I'm running out of distance here, so I can increase the length of this fusion comp if I need to, but we'll wait. Okay, so now if we connect these and view this last one, what you'll see is that they'll all animate. And so we have those animate, and then they're moving, and then and so on, right? So what I need to do now is after this first group, I need to hit Shift Spacebar, type in transform, and I need to, in between these two, the movements of these two. So where does this one begin? It begins right here. So like here, I'm gonna add a keyframe and then come back a couple, add a keyframe here. And this second keyframe, I'm going to move this all the way up, right? All the way up to here. So I'll make this a 1. So what's happening is all of this stuff is getting fed into this transform, then this transform's moving up, okay? So if we watch this now, all the stuff comes up, it all goes up, and it goes, beyond. I think I'm going to stretch these out just a little bit. So I'm going to come to the spline, come in here, and move this by holding Shift. Just like that. So that is our animation for that. Now let's add this into our project so we can actually see how it looks. So take all of this and then just move it up just a little bit right over here. And then I'm going to come out of here and go into our whole project so far up to there. And if we view it, now we get all this craziness. That's perfectly fine. So all we're going to do is for this merge, because we're bringing everything in, we are going to take this merge and we're going to make this y a 0. So now everything's coming up, and then obviously it's going to go above. But what we're going to do is we're going to add in another rectangle, bring it over, change this y to 25. So now if we actually look at this, it's just right here, and we'll extend the width, and it's coming up and it's just going, and everything's going like that, and it's working good, right? So what we need to do is we need to have the this background stuff, we need to have it come up before this stuff comes on. So I would say from right here, so we'll come up to here, all this stuff that's above is getting fed right to here. So coming out of this, we'll just do a transform, bring this in, and we will keyframe here, and maybe to here. We will bring up all of this to there. And that's kind of looking like a good spot, right? With how all of this is lined up. The only reason why the background is there is because we have that solid, and because that solid's a part of everything, that's also moving, but we're going to make that transparent and then add a background later. So we're almost done. So let's in this transform, I'm going to just come into my spline tool, click this button, and ease both of these, highlight, hit F, just so everything's a little smoother. Take a look at what we have so far. All of this is coming in. That comes over, it lifts up, and then we have our images. Now the images were coming in kind of quick, but you could just extend them so that they could stay up a little bit longer if you want it to. It's not that, it's completely up to you. But what I'm going to do is in here, when this is coming like into, when all of this is happening, right? Because there's a bit where this is just bringing up like this, right? I am going to work on this button. So a clicker is going to come over, click it, and then it's going to switch. So let's add that in quick. All right, so we have to come back up to our button. I believe right here is our button. Okay, so here's all of our button. We need to add in our mouse cursor to go over our button. So I'm just going to bring this over, bring this into here. So now if I preview this, now we have our little mouse cursor right there. So I'll click on here or click on our merge so we can keyframe this. So our first keyframe is, I think we were at the right spot, so like right there. Let's look at everything. Actually, let's do two screens here. Close that, and we'll look at, so I'm gonna click on here and hit 1 to view it over here. Then we're viewing all the other stuff over here. So right here is where we were working. The idea here is when this is coming in is when we're going to be adding our keyframes. So I would say there is a good spot. Whoop, I'm on the wrong thing. Click on here. So I have a keyframe right there, and then let's have another keyframe at 95. And I'm going to come back to the first keyframe, and on this merge, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit and bring this over. So the idea is it's going to come over like that. And I'm going to also ease this so it comes in a little smoother. I'm going to hit T to increase the easing. So yeah, comes over. And then actually this is all happening a little too soon, so I'm going to come into my spline. I'm going to move this over a little bit, holding shift. Okay, right here, close my spline. Once this is here, so frame 90, I'm going to, in this merge, hit shift spacebar, get a transform out, and keyframe the size. Come down 5 frames, sure, keyframe again, and 2 frames, keyframe. Come to this frame here, and then just go to 0.9. And the idea here is that when I come, I'm gonna click it, right? It's gonna click. And so now that I have the click press, I'm going to change, I'm going to change how this looks here. So I'm going to bring all of this out. I'm going to highlight all of this and then paste it. And now if I view this over here, what I'm going to change is the font. It's going to go dark, and the background, we're going to make it gray because it's not going to be a background anymore. I'm going to come into my rectangle, unclick solid, and then I'm going to increase the border. So I'm holding control right now to have fine adjustments. So that's what I'm going to do there. And then I'm going to hit shift spacebar and get dissolve. And I'm going to connect this in and connect this in and then connect this over to here. And if I look on here, right here is where those keyframes are of the click and then it unclicks. So I'm going to click on my dissolve, keyframe, then come over 1 frame and go to the other way. If you've seen over here, what will happen, it comes in, click, it switches, and then it moves up, and then I have to animate it off. But what's happening with this dissolve is you can say which one to get an input from. Do you get it from the background or the foreground? So we start by getting it from the foreground, which is the colored version, and then when a frame switches, we get it from the background, which is the one that we just made here. And because all of this is fed into the transform, it looks like it's still a part of it because we have that little end part of the animation. So that's how we did that. The next thing that we're going to do is come back to this merge here because we want to animate off the mouse. So the mouse is kind of done here. It does its little button click. So let's come to frame 100 and we'll click, and we'll come maybe here, click again. And now over here, I'm just going to drag it off, and then I'm going to come to my spline and view this, and I only want to ease just this one where it's on screen. I don't care about the one that's off screen, just the one that's on screen. So now we have all of that. I'm going to take this background and just turn all these to 0. And then I'm going to come down to the bottom and make a new background. And I'm going to make it a gradient, and let's view this, and we can just do 1 for now. Make 1 off-white, make the other one a little brighter. And then I'll just pull one here, pull one up there. And then I'm going to have everything that we made overlap on top of it. And we'll view it. So yeah, that's kind of it, you know? Now we have our little animation to tell people to follow us. And if we wanted to, we could obviously make this longer. So we drop it on our timeline. And if we make it longer, and we come back over here, now we have significantly more frames to work with. So yeah, and that's kind of it. And if you want to make it longer, you just have to extend all of your keyframes. You can see them all here. And then just make them longer to match and work with your project or whatever the timing is. I know that there was a lot of stuff that was, you know, brought up on the screen in a 5-second period of time, but at least now you have the tools to create it and make it however you want it to be. And yet again, I forgot to tell you guys that if you want all of this stuff to go onto the timeline so you can render it out, all you have to do is take that media out that was in the project when we started and the last node and connect these up. And then all the stuff that's in the Fusion comp will now get pushed to the Fusion comp on the edit page. And that concludes this tutorial. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this one. If you have any ideas or suggestions, leave them down there as well. Again, my name's JR, and thanks for watching.